Good morning, everybody.
Howdy.
Together again.
Yes, imagine that.
But we have another Watchtower that we just had to do.
Yeah, well, I know. This governing body doesn't have clue one how to run a multi-billion-dollar organization without gaslighting people.
Well, that's why the board of directors are in charge instead of the governing body.
Yeah. There again, you got to wonder, how much education's really among them, too.
Yeah, and I mean the writing department is like, oh, good Lord.
Well, and you have to remember, too, friends, is that it wasn't too terribly long ago that Anthony Morris said that they're just going to be regurgitating older articles. And this is one of these, older articles that is now a gem for us.
Yeah. So this is the July 2024 Study Watchtower. And we're going to be talking about study article number 28. Do you recognize the truth? Yeah, we do. That's why we're out here on this side now.
Yeah, that's why we're on this side of the camera, exactly.
Yeah. First paragraph. Jehovah's people love the truth found in God's Word. We have built our faith on it. We have come to believe that Jehovah set up the Christian congregations as a pillar and support of the truth. And we gladly submit to those who are taking the lead among us as they explain the truth from the Bible and give direction in harmony with God's will. So is that the truth today or the truth that we thought it was the truth back in the 70s?
Well, remember, we thought the truth was this generation will not pass away until all these things occur, including the start of the tribulation. Or how about this truth in the late 60s? You don't need to go to college and get educated because we won't be in the system long enough to use that education. So what truth are we talking about? The overlapping generation, or the fact that I could have used that education and still be in this system of things. Just like my mom said, Michael, I'm going to die and will still be in this system of things. When she was promised she wouldn't grow old. What truth are we talking about when it comes to the Watchtower Babble Crap Society?
Paragraph 2 gets even better. However, after we have accepted the truth and the role of God's organization in providing reliable guidance, we could still be led astray. Yeah, I was led astray, like you just mentioned, that I wouldn't have to grow old in this system. I wouldn't have kids in this system. I'm a senior citizen now.
Yeah, well, I'm befuddled how people could still follow and read this nonsense and still think that it makes perfect sense.
Well, that's why we're out on this side of the camera.
Well, that's why Watchtower is mimicking society, changing its history.
Yeah, and that's why they want to shut all of us up and, they don't want the current members to go in the old literature because that's apostate literature now.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. In fact, let's bring this out. Someone posted on social media. This was from...
Right here.
Well, there was one... What they posted was from... They posted from the April 22nd, 19... Looks like either 57 or 67, page 12. How can one join Jehovah's Witnesses? There is no organization to join, no membership rolls, no dues to pay.
And to further that process, to bring it a little more closer to our generation, page 183. Remember, you're studying this with non-educated worldly people. This is how you gaslight them. Remember, too, that you have made a dedication to Jehovah God Himself, not to a work, a cause, other humans, or an organization. Then if you've not dedicated yourself or joined an organization, then how and pray tell can they remove you. If you haven't joined, then you can't be removed. But see, this is how stupid these men are. They don't think far enough ahead to realize that sentences like this can be crammed right back down their throat and show how stupid and inconsistent God's organization is. You can't be removed from something if you don't join.
Well, look at how many articles we've done videos in the past, how they say Jehovah's Witnesses don't even say you represent the Watchtower Bible
Right.
Tract Society. You are a volunteer. You know, you're volunteering to do this. Okay, well, if you're a volunteer, then how can you be removed?
Well, there again, if these knuckleheads had two brain cells that rubbed together, they'd almost be dangerous, because in the hands of somebody like me, you know how I would have worded that? Well, since you don't join the organization and this is a voluntary work, when we make this announcement, we're going to say, Brother so-and-so has volunteered to leave the organization. Volunteered to leave the service. But see, they won't use that word when they're dismissing somebody, because it becomes too easy to recognize that everything that you do as a J-dub, it's all volunteer work. There is no noose around the neck of Jehovah's Witnesses unless they allow it themselves.
Yeah, they put their own noose on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And unfortunately, they are dangerous because
Well, they are.
they're destroying families and people's lives.
Well, then pardon me, they'd be even more dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah. So back to paragraph 2. Satan would like nothing better than to cause us to lose confidence in the Bible or in the direction we receive from God's organization.
Satan would like nothing more than for you to lose confidence. How about when Jeffrey Jackson said this?
And do you see yourselves as Jehovah God's spokespeople on earth?
That, I think, would seem to be quite presumptuous to say that we are the only spokesperson that God is using.
Good point. Good point.
See, the guy's a pathological liar, just like everyone else running this organization at the top. They're all pathological liars.
Well, I remember when those hearing videos came out, and you know, you can go to, I'll put the link down below to the Australian Royal Commission. You know, go to day 8, part 1 and 2 of Jeffrey Jackson's testimony. A lot of people were shocked. And like I mentioned the other day, it's still doing its job, because Jehovah's Witnesses are finding those videos from the Australian Royal Commission and they're hearing what Jeffrey Jackson said. And it's like, wait a minute, in our literature they say they are the only channel for Jehovah and that we need to listen to them. Well, then if you're not the spokesperson for God, that would be presumptuous. Then wouldn't all those articles that you put out be presumptuous?
Everything they write is presumptuousness.
Well, the thing is it just proves they are hypocrites and they are liars.
Yeah. Well, let's read paragraph 3.
Yeah, because this is a good one. Soon the devil will use powerful propaganda to mislead entire nations into taking sides against Jehovah. They already are, and they're going against you, and it isn't Satan, it is your policies and not protecting kids and your systemic CSA problem and your shunning policies. You did this.
Well, there again, referring back to this. The Watchtower organization will use powerful propaganda to mislead people's dedicating themselves to Jehovah, or not dedicating themselves to human beings. But yet I've heard thousands of Jehovah's Witnesses say, I will follow the governing body no matter what. You're following a human, but yet when you got baptized and went through this book, they told you that's not what you're doing. Do you see the power of propaganda? In other words, it's gaslighting.
Years ago, remember in the questions dedicated to the Spirit-directed organization. Just go back and look at all these questions, the second question they've had for the baptism candidates. Yeah, you are getting baptized to an organization, but yet they claim they don't.
You can't be removed from an organization that you didn't join. And they tell you right here when they're going over this chapter about baptism. Just for emphasis, remember too that you have made a dedication to Jehovah God himself, not to a work. Well, what happens if you don't go out in service? Well, Kim, you know what that means if you don't go out in service. No, what, Joanne, mother-in-law? Well, it means you're going to die at Armageddon. They don't think it through. That's why religion is so appealing to humankind and the emotion that it resonates to. Going on, to a cause, other humans, or an organization. You can't be removed from an organization that you don't belong to. And Watchtower says it themselves. You don't belong to this organization.
Yeah, well, look at, I think it was in my very first video I did back in 2013. I said, your whole foundation is pulled out from under you, and it's very traumatic because you realize, okay, I have to choose between this organization, this cult, or the source of all, because there's a serious conflict with all of this.
So it's not the devil's propaganda. It's Watchtower's propaganda and their effective use of gaslighting the entire world.
Either that or they're admitting who they're in bed with.
They're not supposed to figure that out.
Back to paragraph 3. We can also expect Satan to intensify his efforts to mislead Jehovah's people. Consequently, it is important that we train ourselves to see the difference between truth and falsehood and to be obedient to the truth. And that's why we do videos. We were trained to tell the truth.
And when that truth changes, such as that generation will not pass away, you won't even use your education while we're still in this system. That truth has diametrically changed. So now what do you believe, Jehovah's Witnesses?
Our survival during the Great Tribulation will depend on it.
Yeah. When is that Great Tribulation supposed to arrive now? That generation is dead in God, and now you're trying to overlap it with another source of gaslighting.
Well, look at even us of the 1975 Screwed generation. We're senior citizens now.
Yeah. Well, look what else has changed as far as the truth is concerned. Back in 61 it was, they put out that first little blood booklet, and they pretty much said taking blood fractions is against God's law. And what year was it that they changed
2006, the KM.
Yeah. It says now it's a conscious matter. So what is it? Is it against God's law or is it a conscious matter? Look at how they changed the whole voting thing. Christians don't vote because you don't want to be no part of the world, as Jesus said, I am no part of the world. But yet now voting is a conscious matter.
Well, along the lines of no part of the world, we were all taught you do not display your national flag because that is patriotism, and we're for Jehovah's kingdom and Christ as our king and leader, so you wouldn't want to display your country's flag. Well, and we're all supposed to be united in one thought. Remember, they used to always tell us that. Okay, in the country of Chile, why do all the kingdom halls display the national flag? We did a video about 8 years ago. They have to display the flag in Chile, even in the kingdom halls.
Yeah, and this is what they'll never see, Romans, be in subjection to the superior authorities, because being into subjection to them is being in subjection to God. When you disobey the superior authorities, you're disobeying God. It's simple.
Well, it depends on if they go against, the organization's doctrines
Yeah.
or what, you can obey them as far as it's not against God's law.
Okay, well, correct me if I'm wrong. Who wrote Romans?
Paul?
Paul. And Peter said, what? We must obey God as ruler rather than men? Those two thought processes are diametrically opposed to each other. And it's in the same book.
Paragraph 4. In this article, we will identify 2 qualities that are needed to help us recognize the truth that comes from the Bible and to accept direction from God's organization. Then we will consider 3 suggestions to follow in order to continue holding fast to the truth. And guess what the first quality is? Qualities needed to recognize the truth. Fear of Jehovah.
And there it is. Fear. False evidence appearing real. Because look at what they said. Accept the direction from God's organization. You are not dedicating yourself to an organization. Yeah.
Drop the mic.
Drop the mic.
Drop the mic.
This game is done for Jehovah's Witnesses.
Drop the mic. When we have cultivated proper fear of Jehovah, we love him so much that we would never do anything to displease him. Yeah, and the reason is because you're so traumatized from childhood that you have nightmares that God's going to destroy you at Armageddon. And he's going to destroy the entire Satan's world and all the governments. So you don't want to be part of the world because it's all going to get destroyed.
And again, Jehovah's Witnesses, there is no escape for you. You know why? Because God killed that innocent child between David and Bathsheba. No matter how much Christians will state, even Greg Kelly on Newsmax a little while back said, but God forgave David. No, he did not. He's gaslighting you because God made the innocent child pay for that sin. Innocence has a noose around its neck when you follow the Bible and this God.
Now, paragraph 6, the first sentence. If we were to fear humans more than we fear God, we could be led away from the truth. And this is exactly what Watchtower has done.
Yeah.
They're afraid of the courts. They're afraid of the governments. They're trying to rewrite their history. They have fear of man. And earlier we played the clip from the Australian Royal Commission, Jeffrey Jackson's testimony. Oh, that would be presumptuous. It's like fear of man. Jeffrey Jackson, tell the truth. You lied.
Yep.
You lied. Tell the truth. You feel that you are God's spokespersons. They've been saying that my entire life. When you go down to page 10, paragraph 10, how we can hold fast to the truth, maintain confidence in theocratic direction. And then they talk about how Jehovah used Moses and Joshua to convey instructions to his people. And it's just...
There again, Cam, they're telling you, pay attention to theocratic direction. So what direction is that? I'm now qualified to pass a mic now that I got a beard? Is that the theocratic direction? Because several years ago, I wouldn't have been qualified to pass a mic if I had a beard or a goatee. I mean, for crying out loud, look at what how much they fought over the mustache.
Paragraph 12. We can maintain our confidence in Jehovah's organization when it becomes clear that an adjustment is needed in our understanding of a certain Bible truth or in the way that the kingdom work is organized. Those taking the lead do not hesitate to make the necessary changes. The thing is, they want to please Jehovah more than anything else, so they're quick to do these changes. But at what point? I was a Jehovah Witness for 49 years. At what point you just say, oh, God, Lord, these guys don't have a clue. It's the blind leading the blind.
Well, it's because it's not a religion, it's a business. And what's a bad business model or a failed business model will be replaced by something that they think is going to make them more money or help keep people sit inside the Kingdom Hall. I mean, for crying out loud, they're now throwing away the Bible and they're just using their iPads. When they go from door to door, they won't share scripture. Look at the new video on jw.org. This is the source of truth, because I don't know enough about the Bible anymore to tell you without this device in my hand.
Well, there was an elder's letters. When they first came out with the literature cart, there was an elder's letter that said, do not display Bibles on your cart. Gee, maybe because then people would notice you're Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah, but you know though, Kim, in this day and age, I've said this before and I'll say it again. This day and age, ignorance is a choice. There are so many YouTube creators that are doing deep dives into the historical languages and how they all apply to even that first scripture in the Bible. In the beginning, God created. No, in the beginning, the Elohim, which would have included the divine feminine. Now, for you Jehovah's Witnesses that think I don't know what I'm talking about, get your reasoning book, your Revelation book, open up to the very several last pages, and you see Jesus being married to his bride, his Asherah, his wife. Yahweh had a wife. Jesus is going to have a wife also, because it's predicted in the book of Revelation. Come to the wedding of the bride. And if you don't, if you don't make your way straight before that door's closed, you're not going to be invited to that wedding. Do you understand that 5,000 years ago they worshiped the divine feminine? And in that Revelation book, Watchtower points to it once again. But no, everybody misses it because the propaganda gaslighting says, but this is just symbolic.
Well, heavenly Jerusalem, she is our mother. That's feminine.
That's feminine.
And one of the pictures back at the end of the Revelation book also, you will see heavenly Jerusalem, the bride. She has her arms outstretched and the waters of life are going out to everybody. The blessings come from her, not Jesus or Jehovah.
The
from
divine
her.
feminine. That's why it's so important to do study and research and get a grasp on how men can gaslight the living snot out of you by telling you what the Bible really teaches.
They don't have a clue.
No.
And even in their own literature, they show it. Either that or they do know, and it's just propaganda.
Well, they know it's going to go over everybody's head because they know that Jehovah's Witnesses and the monotheistic Christian-based religions are never going to accept that Yahweh, Jehovah, had a wife.
Now, going down to the top of page 12, there's a picture here. And before I get into the picture, I want to read, what we're going to be talking about now here, because we're almost at the end of this article. Keep holding to the standard of wholesome words. The standard of wholesome words refers to Christian teachings found in the Bible. The ones now or the ones years ago that they keep changing. I digress. Such teachings form the basis for everything we believe, but you keep changing. Things I believed when I was a kid have changed so much that they don't even look the same now.
There is no basis for belief if you keep changing your ideology.
Okay? Jehovah's organization has taught us to cling to that standard.
Or you'll be removed from the organization, the one that you're not being dedicated to.
Paragraph 14. What could happen if we deviated from the standard of wholesome words? Consider an example. In the first century, a rumor was apparently circulating among some Christians that the day of Jehovah had arrived. There may have been a letter, supposedly written by the Apostle Paul, that made such an assertion. Without taking the time to check the facts, some Christians in Thessalonica believed the rumor and were even spreading it. They would not have been fooled had they remembered the things Paul had taught them when he was still with them. Paul counseled his brothers not to believe everything they heard and to help them in the future. Paul concluded a second letter to the Thessalonians with his words, "Here's my greeting, Paul's in my own hand," which is a sign in every letter, this is the way I write.
And this is how you start a cult. Become a Pauline Christian. Because see, Paul doesn't refer to Jesus as often as he does refer to himself. Just like he said, This is what Paul said. If somebody brings you a Jesus other than what we taught, reject them. There again. If Watchtower is changing their theology, then you should be rejecting them. That's why the book of Revelation says, get out from among them if you don't want to share with them in their sins. If their theology changes, then you know they don't have the truth.
All right, now we're going to go to the picture at the top of page 12. And you can see here, it shows like an old-time photo, and a brother's holding out a letter, and it has the old Watchtower letterhead. And then, of course, we see the, looks like a JW get-together, and he's got his iPad. And it says, "Do not be fooled by falsehoods that appear to be genuine."
If somebody brings you a Watchtower article other than what Mike and Kim bring you, reject that Watchtower article. That's why we keep the hard copies.
Yeah.
But see, even with that being stated, they're still going to reject what once was life-saving information.
Well, underneath that caption, it says, see paragraph 15. But I'm looking at like the modern picture with his iPad, and it looks like they're on YouTube or one of the social media, and there's a picture of the governing body in his talk, you know, and you can see, you know, all the other videos on the side. Well, why would they go to iPad and not allow the Jehovah's Witnesses, or the social media, not allow the Jehovah's Witnesses to go to social media and look at these videos and make up your own mind?
Laws for thee, not for me. Rules for thee, not for me.
All right, so we're going to go to paragraph 15 since they said see paragraph 15. And they bring up something that we're going to cover.
But remember, this is all falsehood now, Kim.
What can we learn from Paul's words to the Thessalonians? When we hear something that does not harmonize with what we have learned from the Bible, or when we hear a sensational rumor, we need to use discernment. In the former Soviet Union, our enemies once circulated a letter that was allegedly from world headquarters. The letter encouraged some of the brothers to form a separate, independent organization. The letter itself appeared to be genuine, but faithful brothers were not fooled. They realized that the message the letter contained did not line up with what they had been taught. Today, enemies of the truth sometimes use modern technology in an effort to confuse and divide us. But we use your stuff. We use your literature and your videos.
Yeah, these are your words, Watchtower, that are dividing people in your own organization, such as that generation is now dead and gone. Those are your words. The beard, they're your words. Voting, they're your words. Blood fractions, they're your words. We're no longer using the word disfellowship or using the word remove. Those are your words, not ours.
Rather than be quickly shaken from our reason, we can protect ourselves by considering whether what we hear or read is in harmony with the truths we have already learned. No, because it keeps changing.
Right.
And it's interesting because when you talk to PMOs, or there's several videos, you know, the people have sent me, when they're talking to Jehovah's Witnesses, someone talking to them, like an XJW, will bring up something that is a new light, and they're like, well, where did you hear that? On jw.org. That they just changed that. You know, it's new light. So Jehovah's Witnesses can't even keep up with Jehovah's Chariot. Remember that saying?
Oh, yeah.
Keep up with Jehovah's Chariot. Paragraph 16, remain united with those who are loyal to Jehovah. Wants us to be united in our worship. Any who deviate from the truth create divisions with the congregation, so God warns us to avoid them. Now, we're going to go back to that picture, and since Watchtower brings this up, we're going to cover this because this is a little bit of history. And I want to thank Atlanta so much because he was actually researching this back in January, I think it was. And he was kind enough to send me all of his research and his files. And then I started kind of helping him, and I found a bunch of stuff also. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the links down below to the websites and stuff that I'm going to cover. And I also have a lot of these files in my Dropbox. So you can go and you can grab those documents and stuff. And there's so much, please excuse me because it's going to appear I'm jumping all over the place. But I just want to give a little bit of history here and there because there's just so much. And it's interesting, they're very careful. They don't mention the KGB. They say, in the former Soviet Union and our enemies. They don't go into any details. And this is kind of sanitized.
Well, there again, if they were to use the word KGB in this paragraph, it would be too easy for anybody to research that.
Yeah. Now first, I want to play a clip, and I'm going to put the link down below. This is on jw.org, and it is Garrett Loesch of the governing body, and the name of the talk is Maintaining Unity Under Ban. And it's about 9 minutes long, but I'm just going to play a clip.
A lot of pressure was on the brothers in Romania. The Communist Party, they tried to sow distrust among the brothers, meeting with them separately and telling some brothers one thing, telling other brothers something else. Sometimes it has happened that an official posed as an interested person and was clever enough to disguise that and pretend to make progress in the truth, not only to the point of getting baptized, but even to the point of becoming an elder. But he was in reality an agent of the secret police with the aim to find out everything about the organization. So it did lead in one case that brothers started to distrust someone that was actually appointed by headquarters. And these brothers then separated from the organization that Jehovah used. And some of them were separated for not just a few years, but for decades. And there were a large number, up to 5,000 publishers. They continued to meet together. They were preaching and using material that they had left over from earlier years, but they hardly got any new material to study because they were not in touch with the organization that was used by headquarters. Attempts to bring the brothers back into the organization were made from time to time, but it seemed that the brothers from the separated organization did not have sufficient trust. But when we presented to the leader of the separated group that one from the governing body would come, he was happy about that, and he had enough trust in that case to agree that we should have a meeting and seriously talk about reunification. And so from the separated group, there were Brother Albu, who was the leader, and 4 of his main elders. And from our side, there was Brother Jairus, our translator, and I was part of that group. Also, there were several from the country committee of Romania. I remember the first night there was a lot of accusations about what the others had done and not done, which did not create the best spirit, and we mainly listened. But everybody agreed to meet another night. And the second night, obviously, Jehovah wanted the brothers to unite again.
Now there's a lot of information in there, and like I said, Atlantis found a lot. I've got a huge file, so I'm just going to try to, touch on the main things. Now first, I want to ask everybody, who organizes missionary trips?
Jehovah's organization.
Right?
The governing body.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to the 2008 February 15th Watchtower. The name of the article, Jesus Christ, the Greatest Missionary. And right in the first paragraph, about a third of the way down, as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, however, you likely think of the missionary sent out by the governing body to preach the good news in various lands around the earth. Now, we can get the Gilead graduations. Who is it that gives the talks and send them out, gives them their assignments, and then sends them out? It's the governing body, right? Well, when you start researching what Loesch says in that video and other things, you find out, oh, interesting. Now I'm going to go to the 2002 yearbook, page 226, Ukraine. Under the subheading, Missionary Trips, organized by the Security Services. What? I thought they were organized by the governing body. See, and they say Security Services. They don't say KGB. In the 1960s and 70s, many active brothers were forced by the security services to move from one place to another. Why did this happen? Local authorities did not want to send negative reports to Kyiv regarding the results of the anti-religious activity in their districts. From their monitoring, local authorities realized that the number of Jehovah's Witnesses increased each year. In their reports to Kyiv, however, they wanted to show that the witnesses were not increasing. Consequently, the local authorities would force the brothers to leave their territory so that they could report that the witnesses were not growing in numbers in that area. But it's interesting how they admit in the subheading, missionary trips organized by the security services. And like I said, there is just so much here. 2004 yearbook. Under Moldova, here on page 107, the plot to divide and conquer. Now it's interesting because it mentions the book The Sword and the Shield, published in 1999, discusses some of the once secret KGB records contained in government archives. It states a conference in March 1959 of senior KGB officers leading the struggle against Jehovah's Witnesses concluded that the correct strategy was to continue measures of repression with measures of disruption. The KGB set out to divide, demoralize, and discredit the sectarians, as well as to arrest their most influential leaders on trumped-up charges. The measures of disruption included a concerted campaign to sow distrust among the brothers throughout the Soviet Union. To that end, the KGB began to spread malicious rumors claiming that a number of key brothers had started to cooperate with the state security services. The KGB camouflaged their lies so cleverly that many witnesses began to wonder whom they could trust. Another KGB ploy was to train special agents to pose as active Jehovah's Witnesses who would try then to obtain responsible positions in the organization. Now remember, Loesch admitted some even became elders. Well, I think that is sanitized. That may have become even higher as far as circuit overseers and stuff. The KGB also secretly approached genuine witnesses, trying to bribe them with large sums of money for their cooperation. Sadly, these devious methods had a measure of success in disrupting the unity of the brothers, including those in Moldova. As a result, an atmosphere of suspicion arose. Some brothers broke away from the organization and formed a splinter group that came to be known as the Opposition. And you've seen in the clip, Loesch admitted he was at that meeting when they were trying to get the opposition to reunite with Jehovah's organization again. So you can see they admit that the KGB actually had some success in this.
But look at the success that we're having using the YouTube. Talk about Jehovah's Witnesses being demoralized. Even my own mother, I'm going to die and still be in this system. Look at how this has demoralized her.
Yeah. Now in the 2001 Awake Bond volume, April 22nd, page 4, a focus of the Soviet attack. And they mention that book again, The Sword and the Shield. Now, I'm going to put the link down below because this book is actually available online for you to look it up. And it is on the Internet Archive website, has it on their site and available in the PDF file so that you can read it. And it's over 1,800 pages. But what you can do is, if you're on a computer, I don't know how to do it on the smartphone, but if you're on a computer, you can hit the Control and F and a little search box will come up. If you have it open in a PDF file, there's a little search box. Just put Jehovah's Witnesses in, and I believe it comes up 22 times. Now, there's also a person, Tatiana, did some work and an essay, an article on evangelism, agents, and Jehovah's Witnesses in Soviet Ukraine. And I will put the link down below to these articles because it even talks about how the KGB were, trying to infiltrate, and the plan was called Termity. Translated to English, termites. So they were going to try to infiltrate, even clear up to Brooklyn headquarters. Okay? So, in the autumn of 1952, two Jehovah's Witnesses from Ukraine clandestinely met in Lviv in a safe house owned by a witness courier named Tatiana. They did not know each other. This was their first meeting since the 1951 deportation and wide-scale repression of Jehovah's Witnesses in western Ukraine. They met to discuss possible attempts to restore the witness underground network and to set up new leadership. See, and they just mentioned that, this letter that went out. The two witnesses did not know, however, that the place where they met was under KGB surveillance and that their host, Tatiana, was a KGB informer codenamed Ania. She reported on them a few days later, but there were two more reports informing on the same clandestine meeting. One of the two witnesses to the meeting was Agent Kirpichenko. In his report, he informed on Tatiana and the other believer, whom he knew only as Jonadab from Heavenly Jerusalem. Third report was submitted by the same Jonadab and signed as Agent Vladko. For the next 4 years, as part of a KGB secret operation, Agents Kirpichenko and Vladko traveled all over western Ukraine, holding clandestine prayer meetings and Bible study groups, baptizing, preaching at funerals, and disseminating Watchtower literature. So they were right in these groups. Right in, and that's why Jehovah's Witnesses got so paranoid. And it's interesting that this paranoia still lasts to this day.
Of course.
Beware of false brothers.
And we've all heard every ex-JW member that's on YouTube use the phrase PMO.
Yeah.
Physically and mentally out. So you don't need the KGB anymore to spy on and or report on the activities of Jehovah's Witnesses, because ex-members are doing that. But here again, since Watchtower is on the internet themselves, they're taking or making full use of Satan's world. It's easy to debunk these knuckleheads now.
Yeah.
You don't need to infiltrate like the KGB did back then, because we'll be happy to do it publicly and show everybody what a bunch of bonehead men these people are.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, when you do the search in this book, The Sword and the Shield, it talks about these very things. And it appears the KGB was just so worried about Jehovah's Witnesses, even though they were a small group, that it calls them paranoid, and obsessed.
Well, you also have to remember what was going on at that same time in history. The threat of nuclear war.
Yeah.
That whole Bay of Pigs was about to happen. That Cold War was happening. And since Jehovah's Witnesses are a Western-based religion, that's why they were viewed as being threatening to the Soviet Union's way of life.
Yeah.
It was another government setting itself up within the government of the Soviet Union.
See, and the thing is Jehovah's Witnesses can't say, oh, well, that book, that is just the world, that's Satan's organization writing this book. But Watchtower mentions this book right in their literature. Like I read the 2001 Awake and the 2004 yearbook, they mention that book. Of course, it's ... and only things favorable, for them to play the victim. But I mean, the book does say that the conspiracy was judged so dangerous that the conference, because remember, even Watchtower mentioned this conference of the KGB getting together, planning how to get rid of Jehovah's Witnesses. And it was judged so dangerous that the conference agreed on the need for agent penetration of the Brooklyn headquarters and its West European branches. So they were trying to infiltrate even the Brooklyn headquarters, clear up to the top. Now, the book does mention in the references down below that there is no file stating that they actually infiltrated Watchtower headquarters, but they were trying. And how far did they succeed? But Watchtower's not going to admit.
Well, here again, if they go so far as to admit that, then they have to admit that they didn't have Jehovah's blessing or Jehovah's protection.
Yeah.
See, Jehovah allowed the enemy to sit in the seat of authority of the governing body.
Yeah. And it mentions that the Soviet Security Service became an alternative communication channel between the faith communities and a source of religious reproduction, including the source of the production of Watchtower literature. See, and they pretty much admitted that, Loesch admitted that and stuff. And in the file that I'm going to put in my Dropbox, there's one called the 1952 to 1955 KGB file. A lot of this information, and they have a lot of pictures in here. Thank you so much, Atlantis, for getting this to me. But they mention that they were even publishing, in the magazine, the July 2024 study article, it shows they have an old letter, and it said that they had this letter that it looked real. Well, here's the actual letter. And it was intercepted by the KGB, and they rewrote it with their propaganda and then distributed it to, the Bible study groups, the Jehovah's Witnesses. And so it got, like they said, to where you didn't know who to believe.
Well, there again, this isn't anything new. Because, the Pauline Christians, the Apostle Paul, stated the same thing, that there's a letter going around stating that I wrote it. This is nothing new when it comes to human beings. We all go out of our way to destroy someone else's theology.
Exactly. So, I'm glad they have this book available online so that, all of you, can see that. They have the link to that video that Loesch did about the unity. And they tell you to go to timestamp number 4. And it says, and continue to listen as Loesch admits that many of the elders were actually government agents. Listen and count how many times Loesch uses the word secret. Look at the video and note the underground printing of literature that was banned, the smuggling, secret meetings, and so forth. And in the KGB file, in those pictures, look at them. See? Stacks of literature that the KGB was actually printing up and distributing. The Holy Spirit gave the Watchtower no hint that the KGB was there. The KGB published Watchtower literature, and the Soviet Jehovah's Witnesses could not tell the difference between the Watchtower literature or the KGB literature. So how can the Watchtower claim that Jehovah is helping them when the KGB can do the very same thing with the same results? Now, also in that article, because remember from the clip, Loesch admitted that he was at that meeting when they were trying to get the opposition group to join them, and reunite with Jehovah's organization. So the article mentions, From the mid-1950s until at least the late 1970s, the KGB reported that the Witness Country Committee, and they even mentioned that in some of these articles in your books, the main governing body of the Soviet witnesses was under its control, infiltrated with police agents. Infiltrated with police agents. So, Garrett Loesch does not mention in that video that the entire Soviet governing body were part of that. Interesting. Now, when I was researching and searching for information on this, it mentioned that Russia got so desperate, and some of these other countries, and Loesch mentions them, Romania, Moldova, all of those. They were so desperate to get rid of the witnesses that they put them on trains and shipped them to Siberia. And of course, Watchtower says, and that was the best thing, because then everybody, started learning the truth because they moved these Jehovah's Witnesses around. Well, when I was searching for that, I came across this website, 70th anniversary of Operation North. And that's what it was called, when they loaded them onto trains and sent them to Siberia. So I'm going to play a short clip here. I'm going to turn the camera around and show you a little bit about this website. When I was helping Atlantis researching this about the KGB, I did a search on Google, and I came across this website, the 70th anniversary of Operation North. Operation North, whys and wherefores, and they talk about the Jehovah's Witnesses, what it was like. They have all this information, and it's interesting that they talk about the KGB and all of that. But when you get to the bottom down here, Watchtower Bible Tract Society of Pennsylvania 2021. So this is a Watchtower website. See, and the thing is, that's why it's going to be sanitized and pro-Watchtower, because it's created by the Watchtower Bible Tract Society of Pennsylvania 2021. They did this website.
What was that earlier about propaganda? Here it is, guys.
Yeah.
Anybody who sanitizes their history, you can bet your bottom dollar that it's full of propaganda.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that largely in the political arena today. It's pure, unadulterated propaganda. You look at the organization and the political fever pitch in the world today, you can't see the difference between them.
Well, you mentioned something in the first video of this we did, the first take we did. You had mentioned that the two most dangerous organization, sects, cults, whatever you want to call them, on this planet that hurt mankind the most is politics and religion.
Yeah.
And imagine the damage, that could be undone if you got rid of those two systems that are so corrupt and abuse people.
Well, that's what needs to go, is the corruption and the abuse of people. But it'll never happen. Why? Because John Q. Public like us, we don't have the amount of money it takes to, start a better religion. Become some sort of senator who makes laws. We can't do nothing because we don't have the money. That's how this system has enslaved everybody. That's why it only takes 1% of the rich to control the entire world.
Yeah. Now, in this website, Operation North, you can click on Archive. And when you do, there's a choice, and you can click on Documents. And they have documents. You can grab these documents, the PDFs of some of this, of like government and KGB and, their messages to the government and stuff. And so,
just referring back for a moment, I watched a video a couple days ago from Billy Carson, and I liked what he used. Instead of politics, polytricks. Because that's what it is. Polytricks.
Yeah. Like I keep saying, right wing, left wing, it's the same bird.
It's the same carnivorous bird.
Yeah. Yeah. That hurts the human family, and none of them care about all of us little people.
No, it's the acquisition of money through power.
Yeah. And it looks like most of these documents I was just talking about on the Operation North Archives website run from about 1951 to 1965. So these are interesting documents. And since Watchtower runs this website, it's interesting that they're providing all of these documents. I wonder how many Jehovah's Witnesses know about them running this website. They don't advertise it on jw.org.
Zero.
Yeah. Well,
Zero.
Now you know. This website is run by the Watchtower Bible Tract Society of Pennsylvania, and you can go get all this information. Sanitized, of course, in their favor, but, you know, you can get these documents and stuff. I think Beastzilla is going to grow a little bit more.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for watching, everybody. And like I said, I will put the links down below to all of this and to a folder on my Dropbox. You can grab it if you want. It will have, you know, all of this information. And we appreciate all of you so much. And thank you for watching.
Bye.
Bye.